Hello everybody and welcome to Let's Play Super Meat Boy. I am Mr. Deebious and this will be my first attempt at an LP. Yes, a Let's Play. I don't need to explain what that is. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. It's really not... You don't really need much with the main menu. Who explains the main menu anyway? That's just silly. So, this is Super Meat Boy. Indie hit game of 2010, I do believe. One of my favorite platformers of all time. Probably my favorite indie game of all time. It's just so professional and so polished. So this is the world select screen, and let us head directly to the first world, Chapter 1, The Forest. Oh, that was just mean. At the beginning of each world, there's this little intro like that, and they're supposed to parody fun and classic games. Anyway, and that was apparently Street Fighter. Not that I would have recognized it on my first go, because I never really played Street Fighter growing up and could never get into it. So this is the layout for pretty much all the worlds in the game. There are 20 levels per world, and you have to be a minimum of 17 in any order you like in order to fight the world's boss and then proceed to the next world. So let's get right to 1-1. This is Meat Boy. As that little tutorial up there tells you, he can move. He moves fast. And he can jump. He moves up the hill, jumps up here, over here, and there's Bandage Girl. The goal of basically every level in the game stays the same. Get from point A to point B. Point B is always Bandage Girl, but it doesn't really matter because she always gets kidnapped again anyway. It's just an easy plot device. Duh. Meat Boy can also wall jump. Like so. I might be playing these first levels a little bit slow at first, just to get to the mechanics of the game and explain them. Not that there need much explaining. So here's our first instance with a huge pit. Meat Boy can jump far and run fast, but he needs to run faster to clear this. So you hold down shift, run, and jump! Most of the game you'll be holding down the run button. It's sort of like Super Mario in that sense, that most of the time you're holding down the run button anyway. Why would you not want to run? And this does come back to bite you in the ass in later levels that actually are easier if you just move at the default speed. I have one level in mind. Now here we have a bandage. Bandages are collectible goodies that are scattered throughout the game, 100 in total. For every 10 you collect, you unlock a new character. Now, they are usually put in more difficult places than that. I mean, that was just an example of your first bandage. And usually, you can't beat the time trial for each level, because each level, if you beat it in under a certain time, you get a grade A+, as I'm sure you've seen. Like so. And you need to get these grade A+ in order to get the true ending of the game. Usually it takes 2 goes to get both the bandage and the time limit. See, beat it in under 11 seconds, as you can see in the top right. But we're going to be redoing this level because there is a little something that we want to go to. We go up the Holy Mountain, which is very beautiful to look at, by the way. I love the art style in this game, and so should you. And that's what we were looking for. Dark little portal. And here we go to the warp zone. Warp zones are little retro areas. They're actually a bit more difficult than most portions of the game. These are scattered throughout the levels, and they're not always easy to find, except in the first world. And basically, they're about 3 levels, retro style, 2 of which have band-aids in them. And they're not that difficult on their own. What makes them difficult is the fact that you have 3 tries to do each of the levels, and you have to clear all 3 levels, 3 lives each, or you get kicked out. And you lose your bandages if you die. Or get kicked out in a later level. Obviously, this first set of 3 is very easy, but that's only coming from if you've never played this. If you've already played this game and you've seen the harder challenges that it has to offer. This could be a little challenging, but... And I skipped the end of the warp zone. Little cutscene at the end that we missed, but Oh well. As you can see, I have 2 little bandages down there, so that warp zone is complete. I will be getting all the warp zones and all the bandages in the game. Now, saw blades are, of course, Meat Boy's biggest enemy, as you can see. Here, they're not placed so terribly, but they'll come back and splat him into pieces. Whenever Meat Boy moves, he leaves behind a trail of blood, and that's actually really useful. This level has 2 paths to go along. First, we want to go up and get this bandage that's hiding in the sunlight. And then we want to go down and go through this path. Why? Because I don't like to take the easy route. I never use the whistles in Super Mario Bros. 3, and I generally don't like shortcuts. Except for a couple of terrible levels in this game, but I'll do them properly. The bit. Wall jump up. Wall jump down and across over all the blades. Bandage girl gets punched in the stomach. Safety third. I had trouble with this level for some time for some reason, because it introduces us to crumbling blocks. First death. Blood everywhere. Crumbling blocks usually only give you 1 shot to do something in a level. We got some up there hiding a bandage. I got stuck on this portion for a little while, thinking that you had to use another character in order to get it in their ability. There are other characters, but that's not how you do it. So let's go back up there. Oh yeah, there are other characters in this game with other abilities, but we'll get to them soon. What we want to do is... And then we can just hop up the same wall and not use the second wall in our wall jumping. This is not Super Mario 64. You can keep wall jumping off the same wall multiple times. These crumbling walls aren't too difficult now. They're often in your way or will crumble and then destroy your path and only give you 1 shot at a level, but early on, of course, like everything else in this game, they're not too much trouble. And now the forest is on fire. Another level that gave me trouble at first, if only because of the crumbling walls and, well, just generally sloppy performances like that. Actually, one of the reasons this game was so difficult for me when I first got it was because I had a pretty poor computer. It could barely handle Super Meat Boy of all things. And Super Meat Boy isn't especially a very demanding game in terms of computer power. Not by today's standards anyway. So it was lagging, and I'm amazed I beat it as I did back then. So we want to go over here and get this warp zone. It's a red warp zone. And that's significant. It's Commander Video in an Atari warp zone. Atari warp zones are pretty common in this game. There's usually 1 per world, and they are usually pretty difficult. But yeah, this is the first example of a character warp zone, where you get to play as an unlockable character, and if you beat their 3 levels, which you get infinite tries on, instead of the usual 3 tries on, you unlock that character. This character is Commander Video from the Bit Trip Runner series. Most of the unlockable characters in this game are characters from other indie games. Commander Video's power is that he can float if you hold this jump button in midair, like Princess Peach. He also looks a little bit like a VHS tape, and I don't think that's intentional, but maybe it is. So that's Commander Video. Whenever I unlock a character, I'll probably play a few levels as them, just to show them off a bit. We get a little character select screen now. Isn't that nice? So as you can see, he's floaty but slow. He can't move as fast as Meat Boy can, but he can float, and that ability is extremely useful later on in certain situations, whether it be getting certain bandages or even certain warp zones. He also explodes into rainbows. I never really got into the Bit Trip Runner series. It looks interesting. I have Bit Trip Beat on Steam, and that was fun, but for a little bit. I didn't think it was worth the $10, but what do I know? He's a good character in this game, though. Taller and slenderer in his own game. But as far as unlockable characters go, he's one of the best. But not ideal to getting a lot of grade A pluses. Most of the grade A pluses are pretty forgiving in the forest, but later on, you have to play as Meat Boy to get some of the best times in this game. Most of the game was made with Meat Boy in mind and his own ability, that being running really, really fast. So there are levels that seem virtually unbeatable with certain characters, while some that can be completely broken with other characters. It doesn't have to be balanced, I guess. The bonus characters are more of a little treat than anything. Little projectile saw shoot. Shouldn't have died to that. I was about to say that this level is one of the easiest instances in which they appear. They're easy to dodge and they just look scary and intimidating. Later on, in about World 3, that's when they start to get really annoying, when they're combined with another little gimmick. So now we go on to Morningstar, which for some reason I died a lot on my first run through of this game. And it isn't even that difficult in retrospect. You got 3 saw blades, no biggie, some birds and squirrels, and Bandage. Bye, Bandage Girl. So basically, whenever you finish a level, you get a little replay of all the attempts it took and all the sacrificed lives that it took for you to save Bandage Girl, and all the people that died. Yeah, not so. Usually it's kind of underwhelming, like when you only took 2 tries to beat a level, and there's a lot of saw blades. Oh god, what am I gonna do? I'm exaggerating. Being stupid. This level's pretty easy. It has more bark than bite, or more teeth than bite. I don't know. See, not that difficult. Just need to be cautious and patient in order to get that little bandage down there, and there we go. Intermission! From time to time, Meat Boy will throw a longer level at you, which isn't necessarily as difficult as the levels around it, but its sheer length forces you to play more cautiously, because if you die, you gotta do more. And another warp zone. There are usually about 4 warp zones per world, but right now we'll only be seeing 3, and, well, we'll see why that is later. Now for a Game Boy warp zone. It really does remind me of the Game Boy. Although I never had one of the big blocky Game Boys. I got a purple Game Boy Color when I was about 7 or 8. And my first game was Pokemon Blue, and that was great. But this is Super Meat Boy, and not Pokemon. As you can see, Meat Boy still leaves splats of blood if you look really closely. They're just the same color as the walls, so they're not easy to see. Just gotta rush through here and get that bandage before that little saw blade destroys our floor. And here we come on to another level, where there's less intimidating than it looks. Well, I guess the whole point of intimidation is looks, but whatever. You just need to carefully time your jump to get that bandage, and there we go. I love Super Mario Land. Head crab! I hate head crab. Head crab from Half-Life 2. Because this is the Steam version of Super Meat Boy. Head crab can cling to walls, not to ceilings. In the other PC release of this game, that is the non-Steam version, it would unlock one of the little blob things from World of Goo, I think. And then in the Xbox Live Arcade version of this game, at 10 bandages, you would unlock Gish, which is a ball of tar from one of the Edmund McMillan's other games, Gish. Yeah, I own that game on Steam. I don't really particularly, and now I gotta go through the whole level again. Gish, after playing it after Super Meat Boy, just feels a lot more unpolished. I probably would have appreciated it more if it didn't come after Super Meat Boy. Okay, I'm gonna be patient here, because now I'm just being sloppy. And Head Crab isn't even, well, I don't like him. I find him slippery and hard to use, and that his sticking ability is more detrimental than anything. But maybe it's just because I'm used to holding down the shift button, so I just kind of stick to everything. Still, I don't like head crabs at all. They made the Half-Life games completely unplayable for me. Any game in which a creature lunges at your face, even if it doesn't get on your face, it's just terrifying. I'm thinking of the Metroid Prime series, the Metroids in particular. I don't know if that terrified anybody as much as it did me and made the game as horrifying as it was for me. But difference being I beat Metroid Prime because I love Super Metroid and the other Metroid games more than Half-Life. Could never really get into Half-Life. And I just talked over this whole level. That level basically just a little test to test all of your abilities. You got saw blades, you got crumbling walls, and on a computer that was slow and horrible, this level was awful, and I could barely complete it. But now I have a computer that can run fast. Look at him move so fast. Oh, that's stupid. Let's go right on to the boss level. Dr. Fetus is more mean-spirited than anything. But now for the first boss fight in the game, Lil Slugger. Boss fights are tailored sort of to how the rest of the game would play. That is, most of it is about dodging and not dying like I just did. And as you can see, squirrels are getting mutilated everywhere. Oh, the squirrel-manity. So they run, you just run away from bosses. The gimmick is that it's basically like another level, but there's something else trying to kill you. And it's mostly a game of dodging the boss until it does itself in. But in this case, I didn't notice this until my last playthrough, but the squirrels are actually hurling themselves at the machine Dr. Fetus is piloting, which is terrible, but I guess that does explain the ending of this boss fight, if we can ever get there. Got crumbling walls. Who put that there? Got saw blades. We got sloppy performance from me. But one of my big goals in playing this game is not to get mad. Like, I might shout a couple times or something, but I do not want to lose my temper and start screaming. I don't want this to be a rage Let's Play. I want this to be a fun Let's Play. For you and for me. And now let's get up here where it's safe. Go, squirrels, go! And thus, Dr. Fetus got away. We defeated his machine, but at what cost? Poor squirrels. All their bodies piled up. So many lives lost in this brutal torching of an innocent forest. That poor, innocent little squirrel. Oh! Huh. Huh. See you in the next episode.